We have to do something about our out-of-control media, whether it's phone hacking, whether it's paparazzi pursuing people, whether it's producers out of control, whether indeed it's the Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport that can't do anything or doesn't do anything because it's led by twits. It doesn't really matter. It's all part of the same malaise. And Fern Britton has just published a very interesting Instagram piece where she talks about going to the chemist and spending an inordinate amount of time being chased by a fat paparazzi called George Bambi, trying to hide in doorways and giving it away because his stomach is too big. And she knew of this person from the past. He pursued her in the past, and now he's pursuing her again. And at some point she hid in the back of a van, and local people were helping her. And as they should, and as they did, and as you'd expect them to. And eventually he cornered her. And he said, well, I'm not interested in pictures of you anyway. No one will pay much for you. I'm here for Hugh Grant. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And this is why Prince Harry is in court. This is why it's so important. This is why I think it's so important to call out people like Nadine Dorries who did nothing while they were in a position of authority, while they were in a position to do some good. They lined their own nest, they feathered their own nest. And her successors have done exactly the same, Michelle Donnellan and Lucy Fraser. It's making their own job cushy. And they have an opportunity to change the way the arts works. It's not going to change from within, because the arts is dominated by a swathe of production individuals who have very little talent except to manipulate others who are much more vulnerable, to manipulate people who are creative, people who are noticeable, those people who are put in front of cameras, and they shouldn't be followed every minute of their day, and made to perform like monkeys, like seals, like clowns. People have dignity, and it's just to make a few bucks on a paper. This is filth. Anyway, as we know, the tabloid media is a dying industry. I would give it another 5, maybe 10 years at the very most. Printed news is on its way out. I think it's a great shame. But it's on its way out partly because of the filth that these people peddle. They've done it to themselves. So if you focus on Prince Harry, you're wrong. Prince Harry is one aspect of a much bigger picture. If you focus on Nadine Dorries, you're wrong. Nadine Dorries is just one aspect of a bigger picture. But they are both important because they are part of this much broader story. And unless we deal with that story, more people are going to suffer. More people are going to die. In the bit of the story that I suppose particularly impacts me, that I was most involved in, reality TV, I think at the moment 52 people, maybe 53, have killed themselves because of the pressures of appearing on these shows. And I don't think, I know the media peddles this rubbish, that they can't deal with fame or the loss of fame, that they don't like social media, blah, blah, blah. This is rubbish. This is a contrived story which suits both production and the gutter press. The real issue is a production never stops manipulating these people. Never. And it's the manipulation, it's the loss of agency. When you're involved in one of these shows, your agency, your ability to do things on your own, your decision-making is taken from you. And it's not returned afterwards. In my own case, I spent a month under extraordinary conditions, which in any other world would be considered a preface for torture. Indeed, the British Army developed a thing called R21 technique, which put people in situations where they deprived them of time, of heat, of light, where voices were constantly fed into their cell, and so on, where they had very bright colours, or where they were controlled. And after 2 days, 1 day, people become compliant. I did this for 30 days. And when I came out, I enjoyed it, by the way. When I came out, people would ask me my phone number on the street, and I'd give it. Of course I would, because I was completely conditioned to be compliant. And we were offered psychological help if we felt that there was a problem. Why would we think there was a problem? The problem had already been created, and we were within that situation. If you were to embark on R21 training in the British Army, you would have psychological support before, after, during. And we are only supposed to have psychological support if we think there's something wrong. How would we know? That's number one. Number two, when people tried to access the psychological support, it wasn't available. And I know this from a report from somebody who I trust. I know it also from calling the support line myself, and I was kept waiting for 10 days. I got a derisory apology from the production company. It's not enough. It's not enough. Nobody ever asked me why I called. You know? And my partner, who's a torture victim, went through similar sort of stuff and said, oh, but that's what happened to me. Yes. And I think at the end of 18 months, I wrote an article for The Independent. I said, this is 18 months of sheer hell. It's worse than being held at gunpoint, which has happened to me on 3 occasions. Worse. And then suddenly I had cancer. And when the tumour was removed, it was a T3, quite serious. When the tumour was removed, the consultant said, it's about 18 months old. Looks like a giant carrot. It's not legal. It's coincidental. But it says something for me. And I felt there is my stress in a nutshell, in a bottle. And I think I got off lightly. But Fern Britton, just think of the stress that she was under, being pursued by this thug with a camera. George Bambi, being pursued. Just think of Prince Harry, every single day of his life being pursued. Hugh Grant. I remember Hugh Grant when he was an undergraduate. His life changed on a dime, as the Americans would say. And suddenly he was under the camera for the rest of his life. Just think of that. You do your work, and then you go home and you think that you can relax. No, you can't. Not if you've got paparazzi in the hedges, studying your every move, calling you out. And it's wrong. You don't take your work home like that. Most of us don't. And while, of course, people are very happy to be stopped on the street and asked for a selfie, that's a different matter. It's a different concept, completely different, than being photographed without our permission, caught unawares. Sometimes it's flattering. Sometimes, it's nice to be noticed, but most of the time it's predatory, isn't it? It's predatory. And it's financed and promoted by a gutter industry called the tabloid press. Battening of other people. They are as bad as the producers. Talentless individuals with some sort of phallic substitute camera that makes them feel manly. No. Pathetic, silly scavengers, the hyenas of the creative industry.